This was a very long day, a very special day. We finished the Buell project at last, put the last buffing on the last parts, and we had enough time left over to get a short ride on the RD400. Well, this is the day we waited for a long time. Of our 4 renovations now underway, today we'll be able to finish up the Buell. We have one more fairing part to do, get that done, and then Vlad can pick that up. We'll make some more room on a workbench. He still hasn't gotten the paint for the belly pan of the MV, and we're still waiting for the belly pan to come from somewhere in Europe for the BMW. But we will be done with the Buell, so that's one thing off the list. And first, getting that Buell finished, that will be such a watershed moment. And that'll, if I have a little bit of extra energy and time, get this cleaned up. We haven't ridden this all winter, but we get to ride it this afternoon. Time to feed the fish, time to feed the birds. We're getting ready for planting our garden very soon. We got topsoil everywhere. We got bird seeds everywhere. Hungry fish, but we want to get that Buell finished today. Now we're getting ready to plant our garden very, very soon, and the wisteria by the pond here is just an absolute full bloom. Full bloom. Now, anytime I'm working on multiple restorations, and they do get complicated, and we still don't have the matching silver paint for the belly pan, so that's on hold. All of the other parts are buffed. We're not ready to start the Motor Guzzi project yet. That's waiting for parts. And we've got every single thing buffed out, and it really buffed out like jewelry, except for one part, and we're going to try to finish that up today, and that's this side fairing, the right side fairing. And Vlad can pick it up. He will be very, very happy. So every day starts off with a nice cup of coffee, some warm soapy water, and some Rhino Wet 2000 grit. You go through this sandpaper like water on a job like this. Indasa, this you can buy by the sleeve off Amazon. And the thing is, if you buy a sleeve, it's a lot cheaper than if you buy individual sheets. That's one little tip. And we only have one part left, and I am ready. I am psyched up to get this part underway. Now, what I always try to show on any tutorial video, anything where I'm trying to pass on useful information, and I certainly am on this video, this is clear that has been hardened up for at least, well, more than a week. On these parts of the, probably 2 weeks. But the nice thing about this, now this paint is fully dry, number one. The 2000 grit paper, the soapy water, go in opposite directions, in swirls. It doesn't matter. Just don't go in one direction the whole time. It seems to make it a lot better if you can vary direction back and forth. Now, I always try to put the first part of doing a job like this in real time. This is in real time, and when I'm done and I wipe that soapy residue off, what I want to do is I want to show, the objective is to show how long it actually takes in real time, because this other footage that I'm going to have on here is in fast forward times 10, and I only put about 1/10 of the footage on just to keep the video at a reasonable rate. And this is what it should look like. It should be flat, and any defects should be sanded out. So I'm working the part like a checkerboard, doing one part at a time, then wiping it out and looking for any defects that still have to be sanded out. Go back, find a spot that maybe you missed or maybe had a defect. But in the end, I want to have each segment, each square of the checkerboard as defect-free as possible. And I want the paint lines that I cannot feel them, where the red turns to carbon or the red turns to yellow. I don't want to feel that paint line, and I don't want to feel any edge on that emblem that's on the top of the fairing. Now, one of the things helps me is I keep moving the part around, so I'm not using the same part of your arm muscle constantly the same way. If you can stand up some of the time, sit down some of the time, you put it in your lap some of the time, that seems to make the amount of energy you can put out with your arm. Because again, what you're doing here is pretty much like a baseball pitcher. You're only going to have so many hours that you can do this before you have a sore arm or you have to rest or whatever. But I wanted to be particularly careful around that emblem. When we got the parts, that emblem was in terrible shape. Somebody had really made a mess out of it. It was, I don't even want to go there. But anyway, And now I've got it at least to the point where you can't feel the edges. You can't feel big giant edges on this. So by moving the part around, working on a different area, working in different body positions, it just gives you better, I think, better endurance on a job like this, where you're going to be doing the same thing for at minimum a few hours, and constantly wiping it down with clean paper towels, get rid of all the residue. A lot of times, like this piece here, there's a little part on the edge. You can rest it on the edge of the table. The table has several layers of clean, soft towels that don't have any big grit in them. And just moving from position to position, I'm standing up, I'm sitting down. It's a constant. The battle is not to use the same exact set of muscles for the whole time you're doing this. Because the part you don't see on this is really, really labor intensive. And anybody that's done multiple parts in one day or done big parts like this, you're looking at 2-3 hours of using your arm like a pitcher in a baseball game. But in the end, what happens when you get this part perfectly flat, and in this case, I've finished it off with a sanding block, a soft sanding block, get the final little edge on everything. I was real careful to get the edges on this nice and smooth, so we don't have, what'll happen if you don't have a nice radius on the edge, it tends to chip and peel up like a piece of saran wrap sometimes. Really getting that part super, super flat until I'm real happy with it. Now, there are a ton of good buffing compounds on the market, and this is the one I have kind of fallen in love with for the conditions in my shop, in the way I paint and sand and buff. This product seems to work. Now, I always do, again, this is a tutorial video, so I always try to do one part in real time. Now, this is the little Harbor Freight buffer with a brand new pad. I can smooth the material around the whole part, put some on the pad too. Everybody that I've ever talked to has a different little trick or tip or something. Some people like to use those soft foam pads on the big buffers. Glenn had a real nice big buffer, and some of the, I think they were the Adams products, they were real good. The Meguiar's products all work well. Dale gave me some products that all work well. But you fall in love with the one that seems to work on your job. Now, this one, I have this in real time only for one reason. I want to show how long this basically should take to do one little area. If this is a checkerboard, that means there's probably 20 or 30 of these little areas, and around the edges you have to be real careful not to go through on an edge. But this is a real time, no camera cuts, no fancy stuff, no Photoshop, anything. And I wanted to show that in real time. That's how long it should take to get some kind of a basic shine out of the paint. And thanks to Fast Forward, you can see how this whole part evolved one step at a time. And some of the various things that I have learned over my 65 years of painting, one of the things I learned right away, the big heavy buffers, if you're doing a car, yeah, they seem to work good. But for little parts like this, the Harbor Freight buffer, I haven't found a better one yet. Now, they're certainly not the highest quality for sure. There might be industrial ones or something that might be better. But for my purposes, for working this the way I do, that Harbor Freight buffer, which is usually about 20, maybe it's 25 now, it's a perfect little tool for this. You always, always, always want to use a fresh new pad. You don't want to use the same pad for 3 weeks. And I've tried all the other different pads they make, the foam pads and different microfiber pads and everything. But the ordinary pad that's supposed to go on the 5 and 6 inch buffers, it's a terry cloth buffer. It's a piece of towel, and it seems to be the best. And as a bonus, it's the cheapest. And if in the past, like I said, I've found out there's things you can economize on. Buffing pads is not one of them. I've tried washing them and drying them, and it's just not that expensive. They're usually about $3 a piece if you buy them in Harbor Freight. And in the end, you basically have to do all the little corners and edges and angles by hand. I boiled this down to quite a bit of time. and then in the very end get a brand new microfiber that doesn't have any dirt on it, wipe it down, because that's going to show you any spot that you want to touch up. Any little spot that looks like, oh, we got a little scratch there or a little imperfection, and no matter how careful you are, there's always going to be some little spot that you really want to address. And a lot of times you can just do it by hand with a clean microfiber. But boy, when it's done, you can put it on the bench. Now we have all the parts to the Buell done. These came out spectacular. The seat, the repair, and the yellow paint came out great. The original, those horse badges that are on the fairing were terrible. They were sticking up a 64th of an inch and not even on the edges. We straightened that out. I think we did a really good job of salvaging these. This whole project has totally been a labor of love. Well, this finishes up the Buell project. Vlad's going to be on his way over here in the next couple days to pick it up. Be real happy to see how this looks when it's all put together. And doing these multiple restorations, very, very time consuming. And this one was no exception. I think this really came out nice. This is going to be a very, very unique bike when he gets it all put together. That was like a free bonus that the day turned out to be nice for a nice ride on the RD. The wisteria, of course, is blooming away, and everywhere we rode today, flowers are blooming, flowered trees are flowering. It was a nice day to get out on a nice, relaxing ride on the RD. And nothing is more fun on it than on the RD, to just go through the gears time after time, no matter where you go. And don't forget to check the two-stroke oil. And of course, we always kid around about it, but it's true. What do two strokes do best? Use up gas. That's true. And as I'm leaving Rutherford, it just looked like this was just going to be a blue skies day. The temperature was almost perfect. And I was so happy to have the Buell project done and be out on the RD at last. It was a great feeling. And this day just played out so well. There's flowering trees everywhere we went. It was just a very scenic day in absolutely perfect weather. Boy, and I just love going through the gears no matter where I am, what road conditions, what temperature. It just brings back my youth. And with summer almost here and having this ready to go, I'm just itching to get a hold of Luciano and Joe Padula and get some two-stroke days going. And this bike, as I say on every video, is like a time machine to me. When I'm riding this bike, it just brings back so many memories. So many good times of my life have been spent on an RD. And just the sight over the handlebars brings back memories to me. Just looking over the instruments and seeing those two lights come on every time you're in neutral. Great memories. I wish I could explain what there is about these RD series of bikes that attracts me so much. But maybe if you know, it wouldn't be that exciting. Maybe it's just meant to be a mystery of life. And all the time I spent restoring this bike and doing all the work. Luciano's been very helpful. On a day like today, I don't feel any of that pain, just the fun of going through the gears. Now, being honest, there's just not many days I've had more fun in a very short time. Getting that Buell project finished was so important to me. I know Vlad will appreciate it. Getting out on the RD for the first time in a long time since we had our last two-stroke day. And the new back tire worked out perfectly. I'll get that scuffed in the first time we ride with Luciano. And this bike, it withstands the test of time. I'm not sure everything does. There's a lot of things in my life really haven't withstood the test of time. This one has. This one is one of the things I call, and Karen calls, a keeper. Part of the life we never want to give away. So this turned out to be quite a nice day. We got the Buell project finished. Vlad's ready to pick it up. Got a little ride on the RD. Go through the gears a few times. Get your blood boiling. And when I get back home, there'll be an extra cup of coffee waiting for me. Hope you did enjoy sharing this day with us. And even when I edit down the footage from a day like today, I look back and I think how lucky I am. And thank you, Luciano, for all of the help you've been over the years. And I just cannot imagine how much fun I've had with this bike. And with all the RDs, even the ones I've raced, and Ray still has one of them down in Florida. Now, I've collected bikes on my humble bike collection, one from every 10-year period. But I think it's this first period that really, when I was really passionate about going to the YAMAHA races and drag racing everybody in the world. And boy, as I went through the years and my life unfolded in front of my eyes, all of the bikes I've enjoyed collecting, owning, sharing, all the work I've done on them, the custom work, and the things I've been able to pass on, like this Buell project, through my channel. I hope you've really enjoyed it, and I hope you'll share it with your friends, and maybe they share the same passion that we all do. So if you enjoyed the video, I hope you'll share it with your friends, and of course I hope, most of all, that we'll see you tomorrow. And thanks again for watching.